book lovers, it is G Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about some new authors that I read in 2022. So this is a 7 on Sunday topic, and I am the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out and you can participate in a topic in the future, or you can suggest a topic. And we have reached our yearly tradition on 7 on Sunday where we go into end of year lists. As we are approaching the very end of the year, we pretty much start at like end of November to early December. I mean, I decided that to end off November we would kick off the topics because I do have an extra topic for December. We'll have 5 specific topical videos going from the end of the year into the new year. And I personally also like to see this topic as a time capsule because I do like to look back at the authors that I experienced in certain years for the very first time. And who knows, maybe I will love even more of their books for the years to come, but I just want a place where I can record when I read these authors' books for the first time. That is essentially what this topic means for me, but overall it's pretty much self-explanatory. I guess without further ado, I'm gonna go straight into some authors that I read for the first time this year. Not every single one of them are like absolute favorites, but this is just more for the record. So I'm gonna kick off this video with a new personal favorite author of mine that I discovered in 2022. I mean, I didn't discover them as a person in 2022. I've heard about their books previously. However, I tried their books out for the very first time this year. And that, my friends, is Laura Thalassa, who wrote the Bargainer trilogy and the Four Horsemen series, 2 of my new favorite series that I read this year, and I absolutely adored. I am absolutely obsessed with both series, and I think Laura Thalassa has a knack with writing stories that just cannot get out of your head. Regardless of the way that they are written, some of us readers cannot deny that we can't get these stories out of our heads, nor these characters. She's very much a character-driven writer, but she's a very skilled plotter as well. Those are technically my personal observations from her writing so far. I am planning to read more series from her in the future. I really want to read the Unearthly series because apparently the Bargainer trilogy is actually a spin-off from that series, and she's also putting out a new book in the same world. I'm very much looking forward to that, and I'm also looking forward to the Fallen World trilogy eventually. I do plan on reading more by Laura Thalassa in the future, but I do want to, for the record, say 2022 was the year that I first read her. And speaking of favorite new authors, I'm pretty sure some of you guys already know that Hassandra Odette is going to make the list because I read her for the very first time this year. In fact, the first time I read her was in January of this year. I started off reading her Layla trilogy, which is a very good trilogy. It's actually currently being rewritten by her at the moment, which is exciting. I am very much looking forward to reading her new version of that trilogy. But then I read the Fair Isle trilogy, which is kind of one of my new favorite series of all time now, and I went into her Entangled with Fae series. I'm currently in the middle of that as I'm filming this video right now. And what I can say is Hassandra Odette is not only a favorite author of mine, she's a comfort author of mine. I love going into her books, knowing what to expect. I expect a good fantasy, fairy tale-esque story. Every time I get it, she delivers. It's amazing. I love her books. They're just so comforting. They're less on the spicy side. Like if we're talking about dark romance, these books I wouldn't consider as dark romance. These books I would more consider on the lighter side of fantasy. They do deal with heavy subject matters at times. However, these ones feel more fairy tale-esque. Once again, I want to mention that I read her for the very first time this year. I will continue to read her books for the years to come because they are so good. I want more people to read Hassandra Odette because I cannot stress how underrated her books are, and I feel like a lot of people are missing out. But I will continue to rave about them as they keep coming out. And the next new author that I want to mention that I read this year is definitely a for the record author. This is not one of my new favorite authors. I don't actually consider myself to be a part of the cohort, but I'm always curious to try out a new one of their books. Yes, I'm pretty sure you gathered from that fandom name that I mentioned that I am referring to Coho, Colleen Hoover. For the record, 2022 was the year I tried out Colleen Hoover's novels for the very first time. I first heard about Colleen Hoover around 8 years ago. The first time I ever heard about Colleen Hoover was when Christine at Paul and Banana's Books, I love her channel, started talking about her for the very first time. She read Slammed. I do remember that. I thought to myself at the time, her books are not for me. And you know what? For good reason. I was very much into a lot of young adult romance at the time, but specifically more on the dystopian and fantasy side. Every once in a while, I would try a new contemporary, but it took me years years to get into like college age contemporary or even beyond that. Now I'm personally into new adult, and now I mean I'm 27 myself, and I really have to blame TikTok here. It's definitely book talk that made me curious in trying to figure out why Colleen Hoover's novels are very much hyped. And you know what? Jess Owens has a very good video about this as well on their channel. If you want to check it out, I pretty much watch them for like all community news and stuff. They have a video pretty much talking about Coho and their success, and there are New York Times articles about it. There are articles everywhere kind of talking about how Colleen Hoover blew up so big to the point that she sold more books than the actual Bible. I'm not gonna lie, I think curiosity is a big part of it because readers like me want to know why. Therefore, we pick up some of her books and we read them out of curiosity. And on top of all of that, we talk about them on our platforms. Even though I haven't had the most positive things to say about Coho's books, only 3 out of the 6 books that I've read from Coho I kind of enjoyed. 2 of those being non-toxic, 1 of those being toxic, and I acknowledge as a toxic fave, November 9. But overall, it has been very interesting to see their success. And I think it just comes to show how powerful social media and TikTok is, that we get to share our favorite books out there, and some of them get picked up by the algorithm. Colleen is successful thanks to TikTok. And even though half the books I've read from her I haven't enjoyed as much, I do have to say I find her success very interesting. Will I be reading more Coho in the future? I will, for experimental reasons, because I personally want to know if there are more Colleen Hoover novels out there that I might just enjoy. In terms of the It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us duology, however, excluding from like the rest of Coho's novels and whatnot, this duology is actually a favorite of mine. And the reason why I consider it a favorite is because I heavily resonate with the protagonist of the story, and I also heavily resonate with what happens around her. And I read this book at a very dark time in my life where I was actually getting out of a manipulative relationship, and I didn't actually recognize that the relationship was manipulative until I read this book. So if anything, it really helped me. I don't want people to glorify the first book in the series as a romance whatsoever, because I think a lot of people have been going too far in terms of glorifying Ryle, in my personal opinion, and I'm not okay with it, personally. I do, for the record, also want to put it here to say that, yes, I read this. It helped me self-actualize, and I do appreciate it for that. The next new author that I would like to mention that I read in 2022 has actually swiftly become one of my most read authors of all time. And that, my friends, is Christina Lauren. Really author duo here, because Christina and Lauren are an author duo who write together. I have, so far as I'm filming this video, read 9 books from them, and I don't plan to make that 9th one my last, because I plan to also read Inner Holidays by them for the holiday period, which is exciting. Maybe I might try out a few more. For some reason, I've also wanted to do this with Coho as well. Just as an experiment, I initially selected a handful of authors' backlists that I wanted to read to eventually tier rank them. I have not yet been successful in terms of tier ranking. It might happen sometime. As I'm currently filming this video, I've never done a tier ranking video before, but I do intend to. And probably the main reason I wanted to read Colleen Hoover was to do a tier ranking video on their novels, but I also wanted to read Christina Lauren's backlist to see if I'd eventually also want to do a tier ranking video for them as well, because they have so many books. I was looking at authors with a lot of books that I might consider filming a video kind of like doing highlight focus on them and tier ranking all the books, and I have a lot of thoughts on many of Christina Lauren's books. I really actually enjoy majority of them. There are like a couple of misses here or there. However, for the most part, I really love their novels and I consider them comfort reads. I'm very happy that I experienced Christina Lauren's novels for the very first time this year. I still need to dive further into their backlist and read the Beautiful series, because I just know I would very much appreciate them, because they do write a lot of light stuff now. Very much light compared to what I hear the Beautiful series being. I cannot wait to experience more by Christina Lauren as the years go on, but this year was the year I experienced them for the very first time, and I mean, 9 novels is not bad. That's quite amazing. And the next new author I'd like to highlight on this list is actually a manga author. He has pretty much written and illustrated a few manga series and one-shots, and so far I've read 1 series arc from him and I've read a one-shot. I'm talking about Tatsuki Fujimoto, the author of Chainsaw Man and Look Back. I have still yet to read Fire Punch from them, and I'm very much looking forward to doing so, and I am continually immersing myself in the Chainsaw Man universe. This year, Chainsaw Man has very much taken over my life. I am a huge fan of this series, and now I'm a huge fan of the anime. I cannot stop talking about the anime everywhere I go. I recommend Chainsaw Man to absolutely everyone, and I know that some people might think it's just a D-Gen series. No, it's a lot deeper than that. We just follow a D-Gen protagonist. Tatsuki Fujimoto is so talented. First of all, his art style is absolutely incredible, but the way he tells his stories, I honestly cannot deal. And I know so many people already love Chainsaw Man, but whenever I see someone tear it apart for saying that it's D-Gen, oh my goodness. I understand, but you're also missing the point. Chainsaw Man is incredible in terms of its storytelling, in terms of its world building, in terms of the action. Yes, it's dark. Yes, it's gritty. It's not for the faint of heart, but it is so good. And I am so happy I was exposed to it this year. And now I bring up an author that doesn't really have a backlist from what I know. I'm pretty sure they are a debut novelist, and they blew me away so much to the point that I know I will continuously read books that they pump out. I am so impressed by This Vicious Grace by Emily Thied. I did not anticipate this novel at all. I heard that people were talking about it here or there in the book community, but when I finally read it, I was really shocked at how amazing this debut was, but also how compelling this first book in a series was. I had absolutely no clue as to what to expect in this novel, but I haven't experienced this much anxiety since reading Shatter Me, which is also what I would comp it to, except it's more of an apocalyptic fantasy. It just has themes that Shatter Me has. The way that it is done in this novel, absolutely genius, absolutely magnificent. Emily Thied is definitely an auto-buy author for me after this because they thoroughly impressed me. They just wrote the story very well, but also they wrote the tension between these two characters so magnificently. I'm still blown away by it, and it has been months. It's definitely one of those books that just put me on a high. I read it within one day, and honestly, I would recommend it if you are wanting something new, because I feel like I haven't read anything similar to this, even though I would comp it to Shatter Me, and it does have the vibes of Shatter Me. It's definitely very different, an apocalyptic fantasy, and it just made me want to read more apocalyptic fantasies, even though apocalyptic fantasies are scary, in my opinion. So for the record, this was the year I was introduced to Emily Thied and This Vicious Grace. Next new author that I read in 2022 is also one of my new favorite authors of the year, but just in general, and that, my friends, is Grace Draven, the author of Wraith Kings and the author of Master of Crows. Now, Wraith Kings pretty much impressed me enough in terms of fantasy romance. However, Master of Crows, I believe, solidified Grace Draven as a new favorite author of mine because she proved that she could tell a story from start to finish so well and so gradually within a standalone, and oh boy, it takes a lot for a standalone novel to impress me. I personally wish that a special edition could be offered for Master of Crows because it is probably one of the best Beauty and the Beast reimaginings I've read so far in my life. I loved it, and I'm a huge Beauty and the Beast gal, so that's saying a lot. And on top of all of that, Wraith Kings is just one of those series that warms my heart every single time I think about it. I just want to hug these books because these books felt like a nice warm hug at times. I mean, yes, of course, there was a lot of tension and there were a lot of political themes in it as well. And no, the romance wasn't always lovey-dovey because yes, like they're a married couple. They've got to resolve their conflict. But I reckon that the conflict resolution was done perfectly. Grace Draven is also a comfort author to me. I'm very much looking forward to reading the rest of the books on her backlist. From what I've noticed, I've seen that her books don't get published as frequently as a lot of other independently published authors out there. So I hope I will have plenty of books to read from her in the years to come. But if not, I will appreciate what I have, because what I do know is that I'm going to reread Wraith Kings and I'm going to reread Master of Crows, and I'm probably going to reread the rest of the books that she puts out. I am that obsessed with these books, and I'm very happy that I discovered a new favorite in her novels. Second last author I would like to highlight in this video today is Jessie Mihalik. I experienced Jessie Mihalik's novels for the very first time this year, and they very much reminded me why I liked science fiction in the first place, or at least space operas. I remember getting into young adult space operas back in the day with Claudia Gray and with Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. I remember getting into those romantic space operas. They would be like hit or miss for me. Like I would enjoy some space opera moments, but then sometimes I would never really get invested in the romances. But Jessie Mihalik has like the best of both worlds with her novels. She has a compelling romance, but also a very compelling story and plot. I love the way that she does politics in her novels, but also I like the way that she writes romance. I don't find them too cheesy. I personally find them more realistic than the young adult ones that I read previously. I mean, I did kind of enjoy Defy the Stars when I revisited it sometime a few years ago, but I never really got the Starbound trilogy personally, or Unearthed. It was kind of good to revive my love for space operas through Jessie Mihalik's works, and they make make me realize that I also really need to continue on with the Expanse series. I think the only thing that's holding me back from the Expanse series and like continuing on with it is definitely the length of the novels. But I personally love what I've read of the Expanse series so far. I personally think that I need to reread some of Jessie Mihalik's novels, or maybe go into more of them in order to really build me up to read the rest of the Expanse series. I like space operas. I don't read many of them, but I think Jessie Mihalik encourages me to read more space operas. And the final new author I would like to mention in this video today is an author of one series that I've read. I have not read any of their backlist, and I think it's because their backlist books are part of companion series that have not been continued yet. However, I really hope that eventually they do get continued, because I personally want to dive into more books by this author. And the author that I will be highlighting is Lyssa Kay Adams, the author of the Bromance Book Club series. Whilst I've only read the Bromance Book Club series by Lyssa Kay Adams, I've still technically read 4 books by Lyssa Kay Adams as I'm speaking right now. However, it could be 5 as this video goes up, because the 5th book in the Bromance Book Club series has just come out. And no, I have not yet read it. I have not yet received my pre-order, but I've read enough Lyssa Kay Adams to tell you that she is a new favorite author of mine, and I am so excited to read anything else she puts out. Like, it doesn't need to be in the Bromance Book Club universe. I think any of the Bromance Book Club books are an easy paycheck for Lyssa Kay Adams. I will read anything she puts out. I really hope that she expands her horizons when it comes to other books or other companion series, but I will still read any book in the Bromance Book Club series, whether it be book 10 or book 20 or book 30. I will read them all, because I would love to see the Bromance Book Club expand. As much as I enjoy the 4 books that I've read so far, I feel like this series could go on forever. I feel like we could have many more bros to follow, because the Bromance Book Club is that good, in my opinion. Kind of just like Grace Draven and Hassandra Odette, whatnot. She's a comfort author for me, and I will continuously go back to her works. I think I will go back to her backlist even though the companion series have not been continued. I just want to read more by Lyssa Kay Adams, because I find her writing style to be absolutely comforting, and her characters to be very comforting characters to follow as well. I could not recommend this series enough. This is definitely a big highlight of the year, and I'm so happy that 2022 introduced me to the Bromance Book Club. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the sunflower emoji, because I don't know, I feel like blossoming right now. And if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social medias, @GSwizzlebooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok, @GSwizzle on TikTok, if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it in a double. Started out with half and I flipped it in a double.